But we're not living then, we're living now. What do we make of the timing question now? The message and the theme of Advent include the two comings of Christ. During this season, remember the first coming of Jesus at his birth, even as we prepare for the second coming and our salvation. My position is that the second coming of Jesus occurs each year at Christmas when we take Christ into our hearts, and at any other time of the year when Christ comes into our lives. Christ comes again and again and again, and in many ways. The second coming of Christ is about the coming of the Christ who is already here. Regarding salvation, we recall Jesus' parable about separating the sheep from the goats in the following chapter of Matthew, chapter 25, where he separates the righteous from the not, the saved from the lost. His examples of the righteous are those caring for the sick, feeding the hungry, giving water to the thirsty, welcoming the stranger, clothing the naked, and visiting the prisoner. The criterion in the parable of the sheep is, have you fed the hungry, welcomed the stranger, clothed the naked, cared for the sick, and visited the prisoner? In other words, the most important ethical issue is, have you lived compassionately? Jesus' examples are the everyday love demonstrated to the neighbors we know or the neighbors we encounter for the first time in the street. They are acts complying with the great commandments to love God with all your heart and mind and strength, and to love your neighbor as yourself. They are the everyday ethics practiced in everything we do. Right here at this church we have examples. When you make time in your busy life to mentor a young teenager in the confirmation class, truly listen to his or her beliefs, doubts, questions, and answers, and communicate honestly and openly with that youth about your faith and doubts, your questions and answers, making sure the needs of that youth are primary, not your own. This is when Christ has come again. When you attend a conference on human trafficking for purposes of sexual predation or slave labor, realize that it's going on in your community and that the laws that might support prosecution are flawed, and you sit down and write your legislator a letter supporting an amendment which cures that defect in the law and follow up later to force legislative action. This is when Christ has come again. When you sing in the choir or make other beautiful music to connect your brothers and sisters in this church with God, this is when Christ has come again. When you attended the lecture by Dr. Lee Freilich about climate change and determined right then and there that you would produce less carbon by eliminating some trips in your car and by consolidating other trips by delaying or hastening tasks, all in the care of creation, this is when Christ has come again. When you hear about what is causing the dead zone in the Gulf of Mexico, make the connection to the fertilizer you add to your lawn, and decide not to apply that fertilizer, but rather let the clippings fertilize the lawn, or even replace portions of your lawn with native perennial flowers, grasses, or forbs that require no fertilizer or mowing. This is when Christ has come again. When you come to understand that our metropolitan area suffers from a lack of affordable housing, and you attend meetings to assess possible resolutions in your community, and you support over time the construction of new affordable housing or the rehabilitation or conversion of existing housing into affordable housing, this is when Christ has come again. When you take action on the knowledge that ability to read by the end of second grade is absolutely essential to success in school, and you volunteer to spend time with kids in a local program to ensure that those kids can read by the end of second grade, this is when Christ has come again. When you invite your neighbor to come to church with you, to hear the good news, and learn with you how to do justice, to love kindness, and to walk humbly with your God, this is when Christ has come again. You can imagine you have done many other acts like this. So our mission for this Advent season is to be transformed so that the image of God who is worshipped in Jesus Christ may find expression in our lives, conduct, and relationship. What we do here shapes our understanding of God and our understanding of ourselves. When the Christ in you cares for, feeds, gives drink to, houses, teaches, listens to, sees with open eyes, invites the Christ in your neighbor and the Christ in God's creation, then Christ indeed has come again. The title of this sermon was Salvation? Near? Salvation? Yes. Near? Already here. And may we all say, Amen. May it be so.